So people who follow along, I did a service call on this York split system. I had a bad compressor and the unit was flat. I talked to the building owner and we're going to start with doing the leak check. Yes, the compressor is bad, but I want to make sure that the leak is something that's repairable. This is an old R22 system. They're in the process right now of actually swapping out all these splits for a city multi system. We've already done about a third of the building with city multi. They're just staging it out, and I think here in about 12 months they're going to be doing the next phase, which should get rid of all of these. So this is basically just going to be a temporary deal to get them by for the next year, so they're not too worried about long term. I do have a leak though, and I want to make sure that is taken care of and we're not just leaking R22 out. I just hooked up my gauges and I was pumping it up. I was trying to get up to 300 psi and pretty much instantly could hear the leak. There's a leak at this outdoor condensing unit. I use these, as far as my pressure regulator, I use this style right here. I've just had a lot better luck with it. If it ever falls over, this outer shroud here really protects. You're not having to replace gauges all the time. So this is definitely the style that I'd recommend if you're using a pressure regulator with your nitrogen. So next I'm going to pull the top off of this guy and get to see if I can find this leak. I have some soap bubbles over here. I was planning on using some soap bubbles just to pinpoint this leak. Hopefully it's something that I can just braze right over and repair easily. Stay tuned. So I have pulled the top off. I could pretty much hear roughly where it was, so I decided to pull this front face off as well. Obviously before you start doing any of this kind of stuff, make sure you kill the power. This particular system didn't have any low pressure safeties, but if you have say your system does, and you all of a sudden pump a bunch of nitrogen into it, you might actually close that open circuit and try to kick on the compressor full of nitrogen, which can just be a nightmare. So just always make sure you kill power before you really get started on any major repair. So I pulled this front off and pinpointed it down here on the condensing coil. So I pinned it down to one of these loops here on the condensing coil. It's pretty much right in between the metal and the copper here. This particular leak I'm probably not going to do a repair on. I'll just let the building owner know that this is going to be a non-repairable leak. I do know obviously I could probably cut out all this metal, everything like that, but honestly, the time we have into this and what we're charging an hour, it's just not going to be feasible for him to have to do this repair. I'll probably start to talk to him about some different options. Like I said, I know here in the near future they're going to be ripping all this stuff out and just tossing it and putting it in a city multi. So this does have a compressor that's failed in it as well. Between a compressor and dealing with this leak, I'm going to talk to him a little bit more about what he'd like to do. I know every shop has their own different guidelines and stuff like that, but I know the guidelines that our shop gives us, this is just a repair that they're not willing to take the risk on. They've just been burned on stuff like this in the past. This is what I ran into, but also whenever you have a compressor and a leak at the same time, I highly recommend always doing your leak check before doing a compressor or anything like that. You can just save a lot of legwork and hassle and wasted time quoting stuff that doesn't even need to be quoted yet. Also, feel free to comment on the video. I'd be curious to hear how other shops might handle a similar situation. I know every shop has different rules and things they've been burned on, so I know everyone kind of adjusts their rules after they get burned on certain jobs. This is just what our shop has kind of been mandatory rules on, is not really doing these type of repairs. If it was a dire need or something like that and I had to get it up and going, I'd probably make an attempt, but it's just not the case. So just to give an update, I talked to the building owner. We actually have a city multi-system over here that we installed last summer. We actually have the capacity to handle one more system on it, so we are actually going to be adding another head to the city multi-system. So we're just going to basically rip all this stuff out and be adding a new head, and just had to add that, and that should take care of our situation here. We were trying to save that one port we had left in case anything else, but this is kind of a prime candidate. They just need to get this system up and going until they have the money in the budget to do the whole addition of the city multi project early next year, later this year. So that is just the update of what me and the customer resolved the situation with. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. All right, thanks guys.